Hello, and welcome back To Lead is to Learn, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of leadership together. Whether you're a returning listener or joining us for the first time, I'm truly grateful you've chosen us as your companion upon your leadership development journey. Our mission here is simple: to empower you with the knowledge, skills, and insights needed to excel in leadership. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to welcome each of you, whether this is your first time or you're a regular listener. Each of you are a valued member of our community. Your trust in us is invaluable, and it's a privilege to contribute towards your growth. Speaking of growth, did you know that To Lead is to Learn is brought to you by Lambda Solutions? At Lambda, we specialize in leadership development and coaching, dedicated to empowering individuals like you to become the best leaders possible. If you're ready to elevate your leadership skills, or if your organization is seeking guidance to achieve its leadership goals, I encourage you to explore the Lambda way by visiting our website at www.thelambda.co.uk to learn more about how we can directly assist you. Thank you for being part of our community. Together, let's continue learning and growing. And remember, following and sharing our podcast can help us grow our community and impact even more leaders. In today's special episode, we will be talking to an experienced leader about their experience of leadership, challenges they have faced, and any thoughts and visions for the future.
Hold on a minute. Who am I working for? I could have still been in the police at that point, thinking, crikey, what have I done here? If they were a bit more outward facing, I think sometimes rather than being insular, then they would learn a lot. It's all right, you whinging and moaning about people making decisions, but you've got to put your money where your mouth is. Why would they want to go into an employer that's very old-fashioned, leadership team, got the head in the sand like ostriches? But to be able to go, do you know what? I went to my deathbed in 30 years' time or something. We created something where someone feels better. Not fighting. They shouldn't be fighting. They should be exercising their right to the truth. Society is getting more frustrated with organisations. The organisation's reputation was far more important than the victims. Look, we've got a lot to learn. Of course we have. And it's not a learning curve, it's a learning line. It's not about whistleblowing. That's a dirty word in my world.
Without further ado, here's Nick Inge, CEO of iTrust, the Speak Up specialists. So the first question that I do ask everyone that comes onto the podcast is that everyone has a story of how they've got to where they are now. Can you give a quick run through your story so that we have some context?
Yeah, so my name's Nick Inge. I'm the owner of a business called iTrust. I'm also the co-owner of a community interest company called Worldly Wise. So in terms of where I've come from and what I'm doing, I suppose, is that I'm 54 and I went to university or Polytechnic in Newcastle, did an economics degree, went travelling after that, and then came back to the UK after some time, decided to join the police. And I joined the police in 1994 at age 24 and did 3 and a bit years in uniform policing. And then I went into what they call covert policing and started recruiting and managing informants. And for want of a better phrase, they're criminal whistleblowers. Did that for the vast majority of my career. Could see an opportunity in the corporate world to keep people safe and create a safe space for people to speak up, because speaking up is not easy for anyone. And here we are, 4.5 years after having retired from the police, with a business called iTrust, which is doing all right. So can't complain. And then in terms of what I mentioned called Worldly Wise, we've got 70 plus volunteers who give their Worldly Wise advice to young people for nothing in the schools in the southeast and a bit further afield as well sometimes. And we never take any money out of it, never want to. So that's the story in a nutshell of where I am now.
So in terms of the police then, what was your experience of leadership and the processes within the police?
I think as I got older, and I think this is a life lesson for all of us, I saw it through a different set of eyes. So I think the police is fantastic in so many ways. It does a very difficult job, and there are some excellent people in there in terms of leadership and that side of the business, because it is a business. However, there are some elements to it which they could really learn a lot from in terms of other organizations, not just businesses, but if they were a bit more outward facing, I think sometimes rather than being insular, then they would learn a lot. And there's good and bad Navy organisations, and the police is no different. And the police only police by consent, and they obviously take people in the ranks and civilian staff as well from obviously society, because that's where people come from, obviously. But yeah, there's good and bad. You can learn a lot from it, good and bad. But I don't think it's any different from any other organisation, certainly that size, public service wise. But I think they could learn a lot from looking outwards, like I said.
So what experience did you have within the police that then led to this spark of inspiration for your business iTrust then?
Yeah, so like I said, I joined up in 1994 and I spent quite a few years. I think it was about 15 years as a constable. And then I was getting frustrated with decisions being made that I didn't feel, and that's only my humble opinion, that in the best interests of myself and my colleagues. And a colleague of mine who's long time retired said to me, it's all right you whinging and moaning about people making decisions, but you've got to put your money where your mouth is. And if you want to try and affect change, get promoted yourself. So I thought, right, I'll bite the bullet. I had a fantastic job and really interesting, and it had foreign travel elements to it, and we had a great time. But I was getting frustrated to the point where I got promoted to a sergeant, so I could actually start managing my own teams on a relatively small scale. But it gave me that sort of sense of making my own mark on a team, and I did it in my own way, which might not have gone down overly well with lots of people, but I did it all for the right reasons, to the best of my ability. And then I did that for 10 years in uniform and back in covert policing. And then I ended up as an acting inspector, managing more people at the end of my service. But I suppose at that point, I got to the point where I was getting frustrated. And I made that leap of faith, I suppose, to retire when I did, because I could still be in the police now until, in fact, next week, 21st of February. But I got out at 25 and a bit years rather than 30 years, because life's short. As we all know, and you might have friends that are no longer around, Chris, who died too early, and I certainly have more recently because I'm a bit older than you. And I thought, you know what, I've seen it through a different set of eyes now. When you first go into an organisation, you think it's all fantastic, and that's why you get attracted to that organisation to make a difference, and that's why I did by joining the police. But after a while, you see decisions being made around you that you might not necessarily agree with. I'm not saying they're wrong, but you might not necessarily agree with. And when they start building up, you get to the point where you're thinking it's an age thing, it's a experience thing, and some things don't last forever. And I made the decision to retire when I did. And some of my friends, colleagues, they said to me, "You're mad going when you are." I said, "Why's that? You're taking a hit on your lump sum of your pension." I said, "Well, what's that got to do with it?" I'm very principled and I'm very driven, always have been, even when I first joined the police and before I joined the police. So why not make that leap of faith in it? It all seems to be working out now. So yeah, I think the reason I left because I was getting frustrated that I couldn't affect the change that I wanted to. I tried to for a long time. Like I say, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and half the time, because I annoy myself, let alone anyone else. But life's very short, so that's when I retired when I did, and learned a lot. And it's taken me into this new phase of life, I suppose, with a lot of experience behind me, or relatively a lot of experience. I still got to learn loads, and I learn every single day, obviously, but like we all do, should do. But it's held me in pretty good stead for this stage of my career, life anyway.
So what sort of things were frustrating you, which has led to this? Because the concept of whistleblowing, I guess, is a fairly new one. It's obviously been around for a while, but it's been growing. So what sort of things were frustrating you, which then led you to come down this path of whistleblowing? And then can you sort of give a few examples of the sort of things that iTrust actually helps people to whistleblow about in terms of organizations that use iTrust?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like I said earlier, I dealt with informants, criminal whistleblowers, for want of a better phrase, for a long time. Know the challenges that they had in terms of stepping over that line to start spilling the beans effectively on wrongdoing. And then seeing that from a very base human level, and you get to understand all the fears and feelings that these people have when they do want to speak up. Get rid of the W word, the whistleblowing. That's not about whistleblowing. That's a dirty word in my world. It's all about empowerment and speaking up and doing the right thing. Because if you use the word whistleblower, like, I won't ask this question, Chris, but if I do a presentation to an audience, which I do quite frequently, and ask the question to people in the audience, put your hand up if you've ever been a grass or a snitch, you get very few responses. But the vast majority of people, funny enough, are probably lying, with all due respect, but they don't want to be seen as that pariah in any organization. So that's what I learned. And then my team and myself had to speak up, and write statements against an issue that was going on, which I won't go into in any detail because it's not fair. And that wasn't easy, as you can imagine, certainly in the police, because you're going against the grain. It's the whole sort of esprit de corps and whatever, which is fine and very worthy, but sometimes things aren't right and you've got to put your head above the parapet. So that's what we did. And I went through that whole gambit of emotion. Am I doing the right thing? Once I've spoken up, not just me, but my team as well. There were 6 of us. What change would it really make? Are people going to bury the issue, not deal with what we've spoken up about properly? And we had all those issues whizzing through our heads, and we had conversations ad infinitum. But then, like I said, get rid of the word whistleblowing. Speak up is far more empowering, and it's more than just whistleblowing. So speaking up is about suggesting a change. It's like praising a colleague. It's reporting a near miss. It's speaking about the more unsavory things like racism and homophobia and misogyny and all the things that go with the workplace, which they shouldn't do, but they're still carrying on in the 21st century. And it's very well documented. And you probably see a story virtually every single day in the press about those sort of issues. So it's changing the narrative from whistleblowing being a dirty word and very one-dimensional about a hotline or compliance. And it's about building a system and a platform which empowers people to do everything when it comes to speaking up, not just that negative, it's all about the bad stuff. So when they access the platform and the software, it's not just one-dimensional whistleblowing hotline in old money, or a compliance system, which means compliance. What it means, just towing the line. This means about giving people a voice in whatever guise that is. And what we find is, through the work we do in the business, is the vast majority of people who use the platform use it to suggest a change, that electronic suggestion box. And for me, if I was still in the police and I had that opportunity to do that 24/7, 365, anywhere in the world, and have the choice whether I'd be anonymous or not, that'd be pretty empowering for me.
So in terms of organizations then, that let's say they would thinking about taking the app on board and using the app, what sort of processes and procedures does the app allow to happen? And then the second bit is, what would they need to do as a leadership team to make sure the app actually works the way that it's intended to? So the 2 prongs, if you like.
Yeah. So I've always said from the outset, when I set this business up, I set it up originally in 2017 as a dormant company with half an eye, and going as a plan B from the police when I did. But I've always said, and I'm very straightforward, I don't want to work with organizations that don't believe in what we're doing or what they're doing and supplying their software, because it's a web-based app, you don't download it from the App Store. Because if they don't believe in what we're doing and they're not trying to promote it within their business, I'm wasting ultimately their money as well as the time of their staff or users. Because if they're going to make a report, good, bad, and indifferent, and the organization does nothing about it, what's the point? We're just wasting everyone's time. So, the organization has to not just buy under license the software on a subscription basis, but they have to, not say act on every single report, but have the software to create a healthy speak up culture in whatever guise that is. So we say to clients, look, if you're going to take this software, thank you very much, but have a process by which your staff or users can say that they made a report anonymously or known, and you have some sort of forum, whatever guise that takes, to say you said we did. Whether you do anything about it as an organization, but that's got to come from the top, not some middle manager. That's got to have the buy-in from the top right to the bottom. And when we do the onboarding with clients, we do it in person if we can. Sometimes we do it online, but we get the buy-in from the users and give the story of iTrust and why it's been formed. Not here's a bit of software, like it or lump it, use it or don't use it. This is the reason why we're doing it. We're not just making widgets for widget's sake here. So in terms of that whole buy-in, it's not just for the leadership team to buy it and sanction it. It's for everyone in the organization to believe in it and use it, not just, oh, it's a token gesture, tick box and move on. No, I couldn't be bothered with that. There's plenty of opportunities out there in the marketplace for us to approach and land as clients, which we're doing. And I don't want to work with organizations that don't believe in it or give us the runaround or say one thing and do another, because life's too short. Like I mentioned, that's why I left the police when I did. So having the software is the proof point for an organization to say, this is exactly what we stand for. That we are an honest and open and transparent organization. And if you don't believe us, here's our QR code that's supplied by iTrust. And the QR code is more than just a way to access the software. It's a symbol of what the organization stands for. And some organizations that we have as clients use it as a marketing tool. So they say to their clients, their staff, their supply chain, this is what this QR code represents. This is why it's on our email signature block. This is why we have it on posters on health and safety notice boards. This is why we're promoting it through our circle of clients, as it were. So I'll come on to that later on, but it's more than just a QR code. It's more than software. Obviously, that's what we're about. We're about creating healthy speak up culture. So if you go into the workplace, you know you have a voice. And there's nothing more frustrating to go, you know what, I'll come home tonight and so-and-so hasn't listened, or there's no mechanism for me to report that idiot. That's a really empowering thing. And certainly for the younger generation, they're looking at employers who are offering that sort of service rather than just going, I'm going into work for the money. Because, I've got 2 adult children now, and they're looking at other things in life apart from just a massive salary. They're looking at sustainability, ESG. They're looking at, going to work and being happy. And they've got the choice. I did have the choice, but it wasn't as widely available as it was now in terms of travel, jumping from different career, go and do that 1 year, go and do something else the next year. They've got the choice. Why would they want to go into an employer that's very old fashioned? The leadership team got their head in the sand like ostriches. They want to work for a dynamic, open, honest, transparent organization, and who wouldn't?
So I guess the sorts of clients that you have won't just be corporate clients then. So this software could be used by, I guess, charity work, third sector, public sector, corporate, small businesses, big businesses. It can be anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So we basically created a product. We walked into it. We didn't set out with some sort of grandiose business plan to go, this is what we're going to do. We basically got a product that goes across every industry across the globe. So you could be sitting in in an organization in Australia as part of a big global corporate, and you could send a report anonymously, if you wish, into their inbox in London, for example. So, we're in the charity sector, we're in the education sector, we're in the sports sector, we're in HR, we're in construction, we're in public service. I'm not going to name clients, it's not fair, but that's where we are at the minute, which is great, and it's expanding every day. In fact, we've landed 3 clients today. One's in hospitality and 2 in sport. And for me, we started out as iTrust offering hotlines in grassroots football clubs. And then now we're landing it in football clubs throughout the land. So, for example, I don't know if you follow football, Chris, but who do you support?
Sport Man United.
Well, I don't know if you go and watch football, in person, but if you do and you hear issues or see things that are going on that are untoward, at the minute, what do you do in football? And I'll watch a lot of football. You do nothing because there's no reporting mechanism, or very limited reporting mechanism. You don't want to be seen as a grass on the terrace, because that's not a healthy place to be. You go and see a steward and then get your head kicked in the way out of the ground. You go and see a police officer and they say, where's your evidence? And by that time you haven't got it anyway. But with our system, you can be taking a video or a free kick of a corner and then inadvertently pick up someone saying something or doing something they shouldn't do. And then during the game, you can send that straight into as an anonymous report, or known if you want to, with the evidence from your mobile phone. And then what happens is that goes straight to the head of security in the ground, and they can put the camera on row seat 34. That's a massive deterrent for people in terms of doing anything wrong, as well as a real boost to levels of security in the ground. And there's lots of campaigns against, in terms of lots of different issues in football, which is fantastic. But I suppose what we're doing is proving that you can produce a bit of tech to help boost those truly righteous issues. And we need to be stamping out on everything in society that's wrong. But, at least we've got something, we're actually proving something rather than just another training day or, campaign, which is fantastic. But this goes in tandem and works hand in hand, I suppose.
Within sports, from what you just said there, I could see exactly how this could work. Someone, like you said, taking a video, and then if there's like QR code around the ground somewhere, you'd be able to just, while you're having your drink at half time, upload that and then it sorts it out.
Yeah, or you can do it in the safety and sanctity of your own home when you get home. So you could have it in a program, for example, advertising hoardings, back of every seat, giant screens. I know at Wembley, for example, with American football, they have the QR code and the fans can vote on the next song at half time, for example, right? So the QR codes have come back in post-COVID. They're very much in vogue. I mean, I don't know if you go out, to restaurants and stuff, but you can order your food from your table from QR codes. I do it, eat Wetherspoons sometimes. It's convenient, isn't it? So people have got used to that whole QR code thing. Why wouldn't you?
And I guess there's also anonymity in the sense that you're on your phone, which is not an unusual thing for people to be doing.
Yeah.
So it's not like a big signpost saying, I'm speaking up, I'm grassing, as you said.
Yeah, or you phone up a hotline and go, hello. They go, what's your name? You say, I'm anonymous. And then they say, where's your evidence? You go, well, I'm just telling you, this is hearsay, effectively. And they go, well, sorry, we can't take it any further because you're anonymous. You've got no evidence anyway. Even if you do it anonymously and you send some evidence in, at least it's a start of a 10 for the investigator to take it forward if it's one of the bad things. 9 times out of 10, it's a good thing anyway. And someone's going to go, well, thank you for that suggestion, because most of the best ideas come from the shop floor anyway. So.
Unlock your leadership potential with personalised one-to-one coaching from Lambda Solutions. Take the first step to empowering yourself to overcome any challenges and lead your team to new heights. Our coaching services provide consistent support tailored to your goals and challenges, guiding you through the uncertainty and leading to growth. But that's not all we offer. Our consultancy services extend beyond coaching, encompassing a comprehensive approach to leadership development. Explore our bespoke consultancy packages, which include coaching as a fundamental component. Or if you're seeking something even more tailored, contact us directly through our website to build a solution perfectly suited to your organization's needs. Visit www.thelambda.co.uk to discover how Lambda Solutions can help you to reach your leadership potential. Together, let's learn, grow, and elevate your organization to a new level of success. So in terms of within organizations then, psychological safety within the workplace is the ability to speak up, as you said, and to suggest an idea. I guess there could be a way of misusing this where actually, if I'm going to sort of like challenge a bit, this is used for speaking up now. And it's like, well, now people don't actually say within the boardroom and challenge an idea when it happens. It happens later on, the challenge comes in and it becomes another email into your inbox where you're then having to go through a separate procedure. So to what extent do you view this going alongside the psychological safety of being able to speak up and suggest ideas there and then?
Look, it's not the panacea of speak up. It's part of a bigger picture in terms of different elements to any organization. So if it helps, fantastic. If it's the only thing that an organization's got, I'm thinking there's something seriously wrong here. It's got to come as a plethora of different avenues of people, culture boards, staff appraisals, water cooler conversations, a bit of everything. So it's everything there, right? But we created a business which enables someone to feel that they can have the sanctity and safety to speak up about really serious things if they want to, And because of that, we might not even know who they are. The organization might not know who they are. But for us, that's why we're doing it. Obviously, every business needs to make money. I get that. But to be able to go, do you know what? I went to my deathbed in wherever that is, 30 years' time or something. We created something where someone feels better, even though we don't know who they are, because we've created a platform and we've sold it to an organization under subscription because they believe in it. That's what it's about for us. That is what it's about, And if it's one thing that keeps someone safe because they've reported something and it's a near miss, or someone's been the victim of bullying or racism, whatever, and something's been done about it and it's changed their lives. I mean, it sounds like a bit sanctimonious, and I'm certainly not the new messiah, but that's what it's about. Go back to your point. It's one dimension of many different strands that a company, in my humble opinion, should be considering. And I'm not a psychologist. I don't profess to be. I have nothing to do with medicine, but I know what works and doesn't work in my experience. And if it's working for lots of organizations now, then we're maybe not too far off the mark.
It's interesting how I view it as a perfect platform for any, office bullying or any racism or sexism or, serious incidents. But it's interesting that you said that one of the biggest things that's being used for is actually the suggesting change, which to me speaks more about what the culture within those organizations might be, that those people don't feel that they can suggest that themselves openly within the office space.
Yeah, but maybe you could see it another way, that maybe they do feel it, but they don't have the opportunity. And because it's not that part of their priority in their day, they can get home, or they could be sitting on the train or the bus or wherever, or even on holiday when they've got a bit more time to think and go, do you know what? I was going to go into the office and say it, but I can't be bothered, or something's moved on in the workplace. But now I've got the opportunity. And also, as well, I can take a picture of someone else's office or building and I think that's a good idea. Why don't we see if we can adopt it in our organisation? So that's, like I said, if I was in the police still and I had that opportunity, I'd be going, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I say amazing. I'm very biased in my business, but it's really, we got it in a school in Sevenoaks in their residential boarding department, and the students there really love it. They're obviously there as boarders, when the teachers aren't around necessarily, and they can, send the QR code system and a suggestion, and that's what they do. And the best of it is now, Chris, the proof's in the pudding. People are using it. It's not some sort of pie in the sky sort of concept and going, oh, this would work. This is actually, paying clients, people using it. And if you go on social media, certainly on LinkedIn, you'll see our testimonials in terms of the feedback we're getting, which is, which is really, really warming. Look, we've got a lot to learn. Of course we have. And it's not a learning curve, it's a learning line, which is vertical for me. But, you do your best and you do it with all the best intentions. And you're not going to please everyone all the time, but we try our best.
I love that you gave us a story there of a school that's in Sevenoaks that's using this, and they're using this in a very different way to, say, the football grounds are using this, which is very different to how an organisation could use this. And it's just, like you said, it's a layer of different approaches that allows that ability for people to speak up when they need to speak up and feel empowered that they have that voice and they will be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll tell you what I've noticed. You're not using the whistleblowing, you're using speak up now. And that is part of the language you love to hear. So it's, it can be used in different organizations for different things, different reasons. And that's really rewarding for us as an organization.
Going back to your experience in the police then, and you were talking about working with informants that were, the whistleblowers, they had to sort of go against very strong, ingrained, ways that are happening. And suddenly they, had to go, I need to now inform. And there's a whole psychological element, not feeling safe, because I guess you would have worked with a lot of people that just didn't feel safe in those environments. So how could this piece of software that you've developed be used in that situation? Can you see it being used in that situation? Is it?
Yeah. So there's ways of communicating with informants. And, I won't talk overly openly, but a lot of the information that if you wanted to find out is open source, so you can go and find it. But you could have this bit of software white labeled under an app that looks completely nothing like a Speak Up app, and get rid of the iTrust logo and everything and have it as a whatever. There could be a way of people using it to report stuff, potentially. I mean, I haven't got down those lines yet, but potentially it could be. And why not? So, yeah, I mean, there are ways of people communicating. And obviously, the higher levels you go in terms of criminality, the more stringent and complicated, I suppose, the procedures are for contacting law enforcement. I'm just trying to be careful here, but yeah, that's how it works. But why not? Yeah, there could be ways of using it.
So was this directly built out of that, or was it just an idea that came across you at some point?
Yeah, it's developed over the last 4.5 years, certainly. And I look back now in terms of the concept of the business at the beginning, which was offering hotlines for grassroots sports clubs. But, you know, when did I retire from the police? June 19. And within 9 months, we'd gone into lockdown with COVID. I could have still been in the police at that point, thinking, crikey, what have I done here? You're never going to get rich out of the police. But I could still be having a regular salary with everything going on. And here we are with lockdown, with all that went with that, and still does go on, obviously. But here we are in a good position in terms of the business. So.
In terms of some of the things that people could use this piece of software for, then, do you think that the problems have always been there? The things that people would have said and do now have always been there. They've just been unspoken about. Or is it something that maybe is increasing? Something has changed.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I'm not saying that. I think fundamentally, the psyche of society, certainly in the UK, in my humble opinion, I've got no science behind it to back this up at all, but I think society is getting more frustrated with organisations, and I'm not talking out of turn, the post office, for example, and government in the broadest sense in terms of Partygate and issues in lots of organisations, and BLM, for example, where people are getting to the point where they're getting so frustrated. Take that in conjunction with obviously the internet and people's ability to go on social media and create headlines for themselves. And I think people feel they're getting frustrated with people who are basically taking shortcuts in society for their own economic gain, as well as own status in organizations. And they're getting frustrated with it. And I think there's been post-COVID, certainly, a societal shift to people calling stuff out. And I'm watching Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, the drama on ITV about the Post Office. It's more than a scandal. It's absolutely disgusting. But, you know, the fact that people are fighting, not fighting, they shouldn't be fighting. They should be exercising their right to the truth. And if this software in a micro version of that gives people that feeling of, I can call this out if I want to. You know, I've got friends who say, if I was the Prime Minister, I would be doing this, right? That's on a very macro level. But if you're working for an organization and you have that ability to go, do you know what? Let's give it a go. Let's have a change. And the organization's open to that. That sort of same feeling where I'm trying to make a difference, whether it's joining the police, becoming a teacher, becoming a nurse, setting our own business up to make a difference, you know, helping people, charity, whatever. But this is giving people that instant make a difference gratification, if that's the expression. I just made that up, but it's society is definitely changing, and you see it. Well, I do because I'm looking out for it half the time. But society is becoming less tolerant of wrongdoing. Say less tolerant. They are becoming less tolerant, but they're more willing to be vocal at the same time and trying to affect change. And I think that can only be a good thing. And then you go back to the biggest scandals, you know, in recent British history, like Jimmy Savile, for example. You know, those sort of issues where the organisation's reputation was far more important than the victims. That's now hopefully changing. It hasn't changed. It's changing. And the episode I watched of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office yesterday, it's on ITVX, but there was an interview. I know it's all drama, but there was a select committee hearing, I think it was, and the chair of the Post Office, whether it's true, I know it's drama, you know, this is about the reputation of the Post Office, not the victims of this miscarriage of justice where people, anyway, we'll get political now, but I think because of that, people are far more willing, for example, in that scenario to speak up and say their piece.
I guess that's very much the short-term thinking versus long-term thinking of an organization that's going, well, our reputation is at risk. Well, actually, if they were to be the people that are helping the truth come out and they were to just hands up and say we were wrong, in the long term, their reputation is much better than that short-term thinking of protecting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think in the corporate world, they're very concerned about the share price. And if they uncover something or see also something, the share price is going to dip, certainly in the short term. In the long term, it's going to go up, right? And you think how much this post office issue has cost in terms of monetary value. I mean, that's nothing compared to the human cost, obviously, but they're far more concerned at that boardroom level sometimes, not all the time, about the short term, like you mentioned, because it's all about the money, not about the people. And I think the world is changing in terms of that side of it. Well, fingers crossed and touch wood, but I think it certainly is.
And this podcast is all about leadership, and leadership is about the people. So it's very much, this is right at the heart of that, is that empowerment, those people working within an organization, feeling heard, feeling like they have an ability to have that sort of change, that ability to change what's going on around them for the better. So what you've created here is a platform, like you said, it's one of the many strands where people have the ability to suggest changes, to feel empowered, and to be able to change the environments that they're working in. In terms of the types of organization, then, do you think it's easier for a smaller organization, for a new startup maybe, to put in place this than an organization that's been around, let's say, for 100 years as an institution? It's put in place, it's a long running family. I'm thinking like these big sort of organizations that have been around for a long time. Do you think these smaller organizations, they're more likely to be able to put this in place and effectively have it working rather than these bigger organizations where it's going to be a bigger beast to tackle and a bigger thing to roll out?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, spot on. And what we found is anecdotally is the small organizations are more agile, so they can make decisions more quickly. Large organizations, we've always done it this way. Why do we want to change? It's the status quo. And if we make a decision, we've got to go to the board, and that's going to be in 3 months' time. So, that's the nature of the beast, right? I can't change that. And there's systems and processes in large organizations, and they've got those to protect the businesses, and that's why they're large organizations, because the bigger the beast, the more bureaucracy there's going to be, and that's the way these organizations evolve. So the smaller organizations, more agile, sometimes get it. Where we started out with SMEs, and now we're scaling to the large organizations such as public services, because they get it, because we started out small and now the bigger ones are coming on board because they understand it. And if they've got experience in terms of different software licenses that they're taking on, they might have a near miss reporting platform, they then might have a compliance hotline. All this just brings it to one. So effectively they could be saving money, but they don't realize it at the time because they're going, well, we've got that tick. And for the small organizations, it's easier to get to the leadership or the owners of the business because they're far more visible. The big organizations got to go through a whole plethora of management structure to get to them. And then could they be bothered? Is it going to upset the apple cart? If they're at the top of their business, they're probably just about to retire anyway after time. Do you know what? I can't be bothered with this. I'm just about to go get my pension. So, which is fine, but that's where we are with it. And certainly, I think I won't mention names at all. Obviously, it's not fair, but some of the large organisations, public service wise, do you know what? I've got better things to be doing. Eventually, we'll get there, but it's better to get the smaller ones on from a numbers point of view in terms of finance and money coming in than trying to get a big ticket because it's going to take forever. And then what you find as well is that because the organisations are larger, people move around more, and all of a sudden you'll be dealing with someone and then they're gone. You're thinking, well, that relationship building we've done, which is fine, that's the way it goes. But the smaller ones are just like, yeah. And when you do a pitch sounds horrible because it sounds very clinical, but and then you can just see the penny dropping and they go, oh, I get it now. I get it. Oh, yeah. And then you can see the cogs whirring going, oh, I can see it where it can go there. Like today, hospitality. Imagine having the QR code in a guest room and hotel or on a table in a restaurant. And, from the start of the time you check into the hotel to the time you leave, or same with a restaurant, you can go on the QR code, take a photograph of your food, which is good, bad, indifferent, or your room, and that goes into the duty manager's inbox. That's, as a guest, whatever, guys, that's really powerful.
Yeah, as soon as you said in a hotel or something, I was just picturing you walk into a room and if the cleaning's not up to standard or something, bang, straight off, and they can go, well, we need to do this, this, and this. And it just helps improve their service, their productivity, makes them more profitability. It's just, yeah.
And it says the pain point for hoteliers and restaurateurs is TripAdvisor. They don't like the bad reviews. This gives a right to reply to say, look, you had every chance, every opportunity to tell us good, bad, indifferent during the course of your stay in this hotel, for example, and you still went on social media. So what is your agenda? And then people read it going, well, yeah, that's right. Why are they gone on social media? They could have told the hotel straight to their face. Are they a competitor? Are they purposely being a whingy so-and-so? You know, you can see it. As well as, because I go to hotels and, you know, whoever's looking after the room whilst we're there, you know, they'll do a little touch, make the bed up nicely or put a towel in the shape of a swan or something. I don't know. They're the things that make it as well, aren't they? So when it comes to a staff appraiser for a manager to go and speak to a member of staff and say, look, we've had all these reports. In fact, some of them are anonymous about how well you've done. Thank you very much. It's great evidence for a PDR. So, you know, it's a win-win. And I'm very biased. It's my business. I get it. But I can't see why an organisation wouldn't want it. Why wouldn't you want to know everything? Why wouldn't you want free R&D or very cheap R&D from your staff? You know, why wouldn't you want it? Too expensive? No. I'm going to get a load of griefy reports? No. Well, I don't know. I can't be bothered. Well, that's your shout. Don't worry about it. We'll move on.
Did you know that Lambda Solutions is your gateway to unlocking the secrets of effective leadership, as well as exploring leadership psychology? We not only have this podcast where we explore some of the most topical concepts within leadership and connect you with the wisdom and experience of a community of leaders, we also have a growing treasure trove of leadership wisdom just waiting to be discovered. I would love to invite you to explore the Lambda Library, our very own hub of thought-provoking articles and blogs, carefully crafted to spark your imagination, challenge your thinking, and ignite your leadership potential. The best part? It's completely free, and we are continually looking to update our content to keep you engaged and informed. It's all part of our dynamic journey of learning, and we can't wait for you to join us. Whether you're a budding leader, a seasoned professional, or simply looking to enhance your leadership skills, our content caters to your growth. We would also like to extend our hand. If you have a message to share and would like to submit an article to our library, simply get in touch through the contact form on our website. We would love to add your wisdom to our leadership library. Are you ready to begin your exploration? Simply visit our website at www.thelambda.co.uk and navigate to the Lambda Library. You'll find our growing library of leadership articles waiting for you. You can then add us to your bookmarks to supplement your sources of consistent, high-quality leadership content. Discover insights, uncover strategies, and elevate your leadership game. So through this, I can see there's a lot of vertical, whether it's from people within the lower organization can put something in that goes up. And you've also got the customers you've talked about as well. There's an avenue of that. Is there as well through the platform online, is there a way for it to come down so feedback can go down anonymously as well? Is that built into it?
No. So that could be an iteration of the software at some point. Certainly in the minute, it's not. You only get feedback if you get known and you're not anonymous. And, you know, I'll go back to my old world of informants. Half the time, well, I'd say not even half the time, 99 times out of 100, they don't even want to know what happened with the information they gave about a burglary. You know, Johnny's doing the burglaries in wherever, and then thank you very much. That's it. Unless they get some reward out of it, like money or help at court, that's when they're interested. But they just put the stuff into the system, you know, and that's the end of it. People, when they speak up, it's a massive thing to step over that line and go, do you know what? I'm anonymously going to report, you know, Dave's a racist. Well, I don't want anyone contacting me saying, oh, thank you for your report. And your notification pops up red on your phone. And you go, oh, my goodness, someone's going to, you know, come on. They just get weird. They've done it from a mental health perspective. They've done the right thing. They've spoken up and they've got it off their chest. And to then build something into the platform, I get it, but it's not it's not the be and end all in terms of a reporting mechanism. Definitely not. They just want to, oh, it's gone. Thank you very much. I've done the right thing. And I don't know if you know, I've written a couple of books about this sort of issue. One's called Expose the Truth, Whistleblowing Uncovered, and the second one's Jeopardy, which is a novel. The first one is a guide to speaking up, that like pre, during, and post disclosure, and the feelings you'll go through as a person, or certainly I did, and lots of other people as well. Because I tell you, it's a really lonely place. And once you've made that step over the mark, we didn't do it anonymously, we did it overtly. Once you've made that, you think to get some feedback, if you do it anonymously, you'd be worried. I think you'd be more worried about getting found out because you're the grass, to get some bit of feedback to say we found nothing or thank you very much. No, it's not the be and end all, certainly isn't.
It's interesting you said about the pre, during, post then about speaking up. Can you just give us a quick run through that, just for the listeners maybe interested? And obviously they'd hopefully go and buy the book and read it as a result.
Well, look, I mean, don't make much money out of it at all. It's not about that. It's literally, we wrote it because it's a really lonely place. So you go to work, no one wants to go to work and be, oh, I'm going to be a career whistleblower, or I want to come across some homophobic comment in the workplace. But what happens is, as you get older and more experienced, you're more likely to, because that's just basic stats, isn't it? And then you come across it and then you think, oh, what do I do now? Right? And everyone knows it's wrong. Well, the vast majority of people don't agree with it. And they go, right, where am I going to go now? So am I going to tell someone? Am I going to ignore it? Am I going to tell my line manager? My line manager might be the problem. And if you look through, call it whistleblowing policies, because lots of companies still use it, but speak up policies. And then it goes, right, if you come across something in the workplace, speak to your line manager. If they're the problem, go and speak to their line manager. If not, go and speak to HR, and then use this email system. And if not, use this outsourced third-party hotline provider who's going to send a report in anyway. No one's going to use that, are they? Very few people do. Very few people do. Because they think, do you know what? I'll either stay quiet and ignore it and hope it goes away and pretend I haven't seen anything. I'll leave the organization because it's easier to do so because I don't believe in their ethics and morals. Or if I'm the victim, I'll become what I call the internal terrorist and try and get my revenge another way. So if I've been the victim of comment or something that's completely unfair, do you know what? I'll take an extra day's annual leave without anyone knowing, or I'll come in late and go home early, or I won't do my work on time because I'm going to get my revenge and come up with some excuse and cause my manager some grief. So that's the way they're doing it. So it's a very lonely place. Sometimes you don't want to tell your partner, but if you haven't got a partner, who do you tell anyway? Get it off your chest. So it's a guide of, the first bit's about the emotional decision-making process, I suppose, in a non-scientific way. It's not based on any psychological study, but based on what my experience has been personally, as well as people that I've dealt with for years. So it's that, right, okay, do I make that decision, yes or no? Then once you have, what are the emotions then? Have I done the right thing? Am I going to get retaliatory measures made against me? Should I have done it in the first place? Do I feel guilty? Have I got it right? Am I making this up? Is it whatever? Because you then start doubting yourself. I mean, there's obviously a plethora of other bits and bobs that goes with it. Otherwise, this might as well be an audio book. And then the last part is, okay, I've made that disclosure. Have I done the right thing in terms of the organisation? Are they going to look at it, take it on? What do my friends think of me? Am I going to be a pariah? Am I going to be proved right? If I'm not, then ultimately, without giving too much away in terms of a spoiler alert, but if you believe it and you're not doing it maliciously and you're not doing it because you've had some sort of like mistake, whatever it might be, you've done the right thing. You can go to your grave without being too sort of gruesome about it and go, do you know what? I know I've gone to bed, I've done the right thing, and my conscience is clear. When lots of other people knew about it, we did square root of nothing, which is very common as well. So, as I've got older, I would have done it when I was 24 and joined the police, but as I got older and say more thicker skin, that's me not being arrogant or cocky. But I'm thinking, no, that is wrong. That is fundamentally wrong. When I got involved in the anti-corruption side of policing and running informant into that, and then we were getting stuff in, and there's good and bad in every organisation, but certainly the police, they should be absolutely nailing that sort of stuff. And when sometimes it's not being dealt with, in my humble opinion, the way it should be, you're thinking, hold on a minute, who am I working for here? When I'm trying to do the right thing and other people are clearly not, and this is not some sort of like bit of ultimately fictitious intelligence here. This is based on other stuff that's coming in from elsewhere, and it's been going on for a long time. And it's either too difficult to deal with, or they haven't got the resources to deal with it, and the whole thing carries on. You're thinking, do I want to be part of this? And maybe that's part of my decision making process. And you look at Line of Duty, for example. I know it's fictitious and it's drama and stuff, but sometimes some of those storylines aren't too far from the truth.
And I could see how you wanted to, as a result of going through that and having that, because I guess that was a daily experience working with informants, and also within having that experience yourself, you then decided you wanted to do something which helped empower people, helped people to speak up, and therefore get to that end result, like you said, of going to bed with that clear conscience. That's the result. This platform that allows people to speak up, it allows people to get to that bit quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, bang on. And I say to people, clients, potential clients, friends, family, I say, well, look, we're not making widgets for widgets' sake. If I wanted to go and create something just to make a few quid, I wouldn't have gone down this route. I mean, this hasn't been a straightforward business journey, put it that way, because we created something that doesn't exist, never even was a concept. It wasn't someone's gone, we'd like to put a man on the moon. How do we get there? I haven't thought, well, I'm going to set up a garden supply business or become an electrician or whatever, and then differentiate myself. This is going into new clients and going, have you heard of this? No. Someone said to me today, why hasn't someone invented this before? So I don't know. I know why, because I've now got more of a business acumen now, but we just blindly went into it. And I suppose that's part of the whole excitement of the business journey sometimes, coming across things and going, you know what? Yeah, we can design that. We can do that. Not like it or lump it. Look, it's not perfect. We're learning every day, and things need to be improved, like it does in your life, in my life. I'm 54 and a lot older than you. I know, but that's part of the life's journey, isn't it? It's not walking in the park. If it's that easy, everyone would be doing it. It doesn't work like that in life, does it? So, like you set up a podcast, everyone would be doing it. It's that easy. It's not, is it? You got to get the equipment. You got to, reach out to people, and that's how it goes. So, and you learn as you go along. You're learning from this today, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the whole point of these conversations, yeah. In terms of your career, you said you went traveling after university. So your career started at 24. So if you were, with the good old hindsight eye, from your experience right now, you said you got thicker skin. What piece or pieces of advice would you give a younger you or a younger person starting out that will eventually maybe be going on that leadership journey and have that responsibility for people, for a team? What pieces of advice would you give with your experience now?
I would say keep your feet on the ground, understand people, and I'm no better than anyone else on this planet, regardless of colour, creed, whatever background, right? Understand people and get to know what they're about, because everyone's got their own story and they all bring something to the party in life, right? Whether they're outgoing, quiet, whatever it might be, they all bring something to the party. Get to know people, not just on a superficial level, but get to know what makes them tick. Because one of my old sergeants, I said to him when I got promoted, and his name's Adrian, he's still around. I said to him, he was the best sergeant I've ever had. And I said, give us some top tips about, managing people, leadership. And he said, get to know people, not just, what rank do you want to be, or what do you want to be in terms of your career in the police? Sit down with them, have a coffee, talk about the weather, sport, holidays, whatever. And that's what makes people tick. And keep your mouth shut and your ears open. Just get to understand people and be empathetic. Just be open to new ideas, have a growth mindset. Because our strapline for Worldly Wise, which I mentioned earlier, is hashtag you never know. So I graduated from Newcastle Poly, went on another gap year because I took a gap year if I went to Poly. One-way ticket to Australia, backpacking, working visa, hardly any money in my pocket. Running out of money when I got to Sydney. My dad was in the army, got posted to Hong Kong. I got a job in a bar in Hong Kong as a cocktail barman. And my wife, she was backpacking with her friends. I didn't know her then. And we're married and been married for 25 years. So hashtag you never know.
I love that you didn't just start with one, you did loads of bits of advice there. Worldly Wise is about that, isn't it? It's about giving that advice, giving that sort of information that people have to the younger generation. So where did that inspiration come from, just as a sort of final passing shot?
Yeah, well, my daughter, Eleanor, she left school in Maidstone in 2019, going on a gap year before she went to university. She was off to Nepal and Southeast Asia with her two friends. A friend of mine, Travell Henry, who trained me in the police in judo suits and wooden sticks in the day. He's got a very successful conflict resolution business, and he put together a basic course on cultural awareness in Southeast Asia. then half a day on physical safety. And my son Louis, in fact, he's off to Costa Rica tomorrow for 2 months. And at the time he was 16, and he was off to London from Maidstone, doing his thing in Finsbury Park. I said, Louis, this is not Allington, mate. This is Finsbury Park and everything else. And someone said, well, why don't you do this for other students, gap year travel, drugs advice, but from people who are working or have done different things in life, and that's where it came from. And the schools love it because we don't charge for it. They get a big, lovely pot of volunteers of people speaking about their careers. I mean, one of our fantastic ambassadors, we call them, he started out as a rhino keeper in Port Lympne Zoo in Kent, and now he's the manager at Belmarsh Cat A prison. How do you go on that journey? And it's to speak to young people who are 16 to 18 generally and saying, look, you might not be academically able, you might have a disability, you might come from a non-supportive family, you might be academically able, but everyone brings something to the party. And even if you become a solicitor at 28 and change course and run a smoothie bar in Dorset, go and do that. I've got friends who are multimillionaires who haven't got a qualification to their name, but they're driven and they network and they're nice people and they get off the bottom and do things in life. And it's just giving those inspiring stories. No more. All it is storytelling. We're into our 4th year now, Worldly Wise. And if one young person takes something away from it, even not in the day when a speaker goes in person or online, but they might take it away in 5 or 10 years' time and go, do you know what? Short, fat, hairy bloke from Maidstone called Nick told me about his journey in the police and starting a business. And, if I can write a book, Chris, anyone can write books, right? Seriously, how do you start? You work it as you go along. No different from a business, no different from your career or me joining the police. I wasn't a police officer on day. Well, I was, but I didn't know anything about it. And then you learn as you go along. And it's those inspiring stories to go, sometimes you get it better from someone who's not your parent or your carer or someone in your family, because you take inspiration from different places in life. And if it's those sparks, because people are prepared to give their time, that's what it's about. That's where we are with that. So yeah, it doesn't take too much of my time up, but we're automating the process, put it that way, as we speak. So I'll say no more than that. But yeah, it's interesting. So, but there you go.
Thank you. That's fantastic, and I think that's a really important thing, because that's definitely what I'm doing on the podcast, is sharing people's stories and people's lessons. And you're doing it live with young people, very young, impressionable people that, like you said, within 5 years of hearing, maybe like graduated uni going, I don't know what I'm doing in my life, and then they remember a story from 5 years ago. So I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you so much for your time. There was lots in there, loads. So thank you very much.
Chris, thank you for having me on this evening. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. Really nice to meet you. And even if it's one person who takes something away from it, then, for the positive, that is. But thank you so much for your time this evening, mate.
And until next time, remember, to lead requires us to continuously